Okay, as always, we always start our projects with a new document. This time we're going to go for A3. That's the size of the poster we're going to create for this double exposure image. So we click the A3. If you can't find it, it's under print and you should be able to see all presets, and A3 will be in there somewhere. There we are. Make sure that it's 300 pixels per inch in RGB color, and we click create. So we're going to need the images that we're going to double expose. So we're going to go to File, Open, and then I've got these three images here. I've got some paper texture, a portrait, and a city scene. So I'm just going to shift and select all of them and click Open. So I've got this Copenhagen street scene. We've got this portrait of the woman, and we've got this background texture. So I'm going to pull the background texture off here. I'm going to go to our document and then drag and drop the background onto it like that, and we can close that one. I'm going to press Control T and resize it. I'm going to turn it this way around, and I'm going to expand that a little bit. So we've got the texture in there, and double click to place it. I'm just going to use the crop tool here, select it, and it's going to automatically select the edges of the document. Press Enter, and then Enter, and that gets rid of any excess parts of the image like that. Next, we need the woman. So let's select the image. We pull her off. We've got the Move tool selected, and we press the mouse and click and drag her onto the document. And we can close her. Let's reposition her in place. Let's make sure she fills the whole frame like that. Okay. Now what we can do is get her to blend a little bit into that background texture. So we click and we mess around with our blending options, but multiply is probably the one I'm going to go for here, but you can try other ones as well. I'm going to go for multiply. I might just turn the opacity down a tiny bit like that, so some of the background shows through. Okay, now we've got her in place. Now we need the buildings that we're going to superimpose. So we go to Copenhagen, we'll pull that off there, and we drag and drop that in here, and we can close it. Now what I like to do is just turn the opacity down a little bit so I can see where I'm placing the image, just to start with. We've got that lovely big sort of negative space here. Let's just use free transform, just resize that so we take up more of the face and the hair. So you've got this, you can see the face here, and you've got the buildings, this negative space in the building I really like. Let's place that, press another tool to place it. Let's turn the opacity back up to full. Okay, now we can just turn that layer off for a little bit while we sort out the woman. So we want her to be removed from the background. So at the moment she's sat on a white background. So we select that layer and we go to select subject. And now you can see with the marching ants, she's selected. So now what we do is, while that layer is selected and she's got the selection on there, we click this button here, which is a layer mask. And that helps you to hide parts of the image. It's almost like cutting things out of paper, but it's non-destructive. So we can always go back and paint things back in. But now she's completely isolated on her own layer. So what we do now is go to our cityscape and turn that back on. And now what we do is we're going to create a thing called a clipping mask. And a clipping mask is going to almost join these two layers together, but everything that's in this building layer will be to the shape of this mask here. I'll show you what I mean. It's easy to show you. So if we press Alt and then hover between the two layers and then click, you can see now that the building is clipped into the shape of this layer here. Great. Now we need to see some more of the face here, and we can move the building around as well until we like it. So I might even resize that again, just so it fills the whole there. Okay, I'm going to keep that to sort of there. Now what I'm going to do is, while this cityscape is selected, I'm going to click the layer mask for that. We're going to use the brush tool, and we're going to make sure we're using a soft round brush. We want the opacity to be 100%, and we can turn the flow to 10, 15 or 20%. The lower the flow, the less sort of painting in we're going to do. We'll have to do it over and over again. It's a bit like turning the opacity down. Now we're going to make sure we've got black as the foreground color. It's really important. So anything that we paint with black whilst we're selecting a mask will go see-through, and anything that we paint white will reappear. So if I show you what I mean, we've got the layer mask selected, not the image, just here. And now I'm just going to paint in where her eyes are and this front edge of a face. So you kind of bring a face back into here. Let's keep rubbing that in. The hair, and let's do the front part of her hair. Then I'm going to bring in some of this image in here. There we go. So we're putting some of a jumper back in, some of her hair, and I'm just making streaks of hair. I don't want to pull all the hair back in, but let's get rid of some of that in her cheek. So I'm just lightly clicking and moving and clicking multiple times until we just tidy up some of that. Now, I think I've painted too much hair back in here, so I'm going to turn it to white and then repaint that back. Bring the building back there. If I press the square bracket key, the left-hand one makes the brush smaller. The right-hand bracket key makes it bigger. I'm just going to make the brush smaller. I've got more control. I'm going to go back to black and just paint again some of these buildings out without catching too much of their hair. This line that runs through her hair, her face there. Like that. And we can take some of that there too. So some of the darkness of her hair. I'm going to make sure her eye is really popping out, and bits of her nose, and a bit of her lip, and her eyebrow. So now we've got the image, the double exposure image. It looks like it all kind of fades in. We could go back to this image of the girl and go and click on her layer mask. I'm going to make a nice big brush. I'm going to just rub out some of the hair up this end so that the image sort of fades into the background. Like that. Just so we don't have a harsh edge. Now what we can do, I'm really liking the image now, but what we can do now is select the top layer. And now what we're going to do is we're going to press Control, Shift, Alt, plus the E key. So that's Control, Shift, Alt, plus the E key. And then what that does is it creates a merged layer with all of the stuff on there without destroying the layers that we've already created. So if I show you what I mean, if I turn that off, we can take these layers off and we've got just it all into one layer. Then what we do is we go to Filter, Camera Raw. So you've got to make sure that new layer is selected. Filter, Camera Raw filter. And this is going to give us some more options to like color the image and things. So we can turn the contrast up a little bit, and we can turn the exposure down a little bit, and we can change the temperature here. So we can tint it different colors. Oh, looks nice. Okay. We can go the other way, make it warmer. So we go warm and cool, and then we can change it so we have a different sort of, we've got the temperature, and then we can tint that temperature. Like that. We can turn the vibrance up and down. And we can turn the saturation down if we want and make it black and white. I quite like it a bit blue. Maybe turn the saturation up a little touch because I quite like the oranges in there. I'm going to turn the contrast up a little bit more. Like that. Turn the shadows up and down. Mess with the whites. Something like that. And now we've got a beautiful double exposed image. Easy.